Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everybody. Pastor Jardula is here.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Jonny Sue is spinning on those ones and twos. Bam, I'm trying to sound like Vince Fontaine because I hear grease all over the radios over here. So grab your socks, whatever he says. This is Vince Fontaine. You are born to hand jive. We haven't heard the hand jive, but we've heard about 4 different grease songs on the radio. What is the fascination with Peruvians and Greece?
Why are you asking me? I don't know. I don't know. They just love it. They just love it. I don't know what it is. They just love Greece. I don't know what. So guys, we're gonna talk about some things today. It's not gonna be a very long show. Garland has had a migraine, so we are letting him prepare for his next show, which he should be on the Jimmy Dore show right after our show. So make sure to check him out. He's really good on this whole situation. We're going to be talking to him again after, because the Ahmaud Arbery case is also going on. And that case, I feel, is extremely easy in terms of what should be done. It was an obvious modern day lynching, and it's going to be hard to argue against that. Unlike the Kyle Rittenhouse case, where you could argue self-defense just based on the trial itself. And a lot of people are getting, of course, or get upset when you say that, but just looking at all the video evidence, like I said, a lot of people, including ourselves, have changed our mind in terms of really what was, what happened and stuff. So it's something that it's like obnoxious the way people are discussing it, which is why I tweeted what I tweeted, because they're all discussing it like really emotionally. People who want him to be a hero or a martyr are just as wrong as the people who want him to be a white supremacist. So we're going to be talking more about that. So make sure to check that out after the show. But we have some things to discuss regarding the Biden administration and what they're doing, both in terms of out-trumping Trump. Joe Biden is out-trumping Trump. And he's also, along with Fauci, changing the definition of what it is to be, quote, fully vaccinated. So we're going to be talking about that.
Before we get to that, I just want to make a comment about the Arbery case, all-white jury, fam. So don't expect to get justice in that situation. And I would feel a lot better if the people who were putting so much energy into Kyle Rittenhouse would put more energy into that case, because that was a modern-day lynching. That was terrible. Even the owner of the house he went in to look to that was under construction said no problem that he was there. And these people showed up. And, of course, they also were heard using the N-word standing over him after they shot him with the gun. So I wish those people would put that energy that they put in the Kyle Rittenhouse case into this case, because that, to me, is way more justifiable that what happened. And I'm not saying that Kyle Rittenhouse is innocent at all. We're not going to talk about that today. But that's something to pay attention to with the Arbery case, and we will get Garland back on to talk about that. So here we go away with Biden.
Okay, so Biden signed, I forgot Biden signed this Cops Counseling Act, and it was an act that basically focused on providing counseling to cops for traumatic experiences. This is obviously also used from the from January 6th, because remember when the squad voted present on giving money to cops, and some of them voted yes, it was going to give money to all sectors of the police, not the Capitol Police, but also like certain agencies as well. So this is not surprising, but I just kind of wanted to read it and wanted to kind of go over exactly what it is, which I guess you'll have to do.
The Cops Counseling Act, signed by President Joe Biden on Thursday, aims to help law enforcement officers recover from the invisible wounds of the job, fam. The invisible wounds. Now, is this not pandering to all the... He's trying to pander to the right. The conservative base that they do have, the people who are anti-Trumpers and whatnot, that are still conservative, that are pro-police, he's trying to pander to them. And it's kind of weird, because before the election, it was all cops are bastards. Now it's like, let's help them with their drama.
He's also pandering not just to them, he's pandering to the people who thought January 6th was an insurrection, and those type of, neoliberals that want, justice for what happened on that day. So that's, I think, more than the right. He's pandering to those people because he knows like that the Democrats are in a very precarious position. He knows his poll numbers of popularity have dropped. He knows Kamala Harris's are even worse. So they know that something's up. So let's go ahead and play the video.
Every day, our nation's police officers answer the call and confront scenes that can take a toll on them as well and leave them traumatized. It's not fundamentally different than folks in the battlefield. An awful lot of people come home without any physical wounds, but come home with post-traumatic stress and responding to terrible incidences. Well, the same happens for our law enforcement officers, arriving at homicide scenes, handling child abuse cases. As they confront these situations, we need to help them recover from the invisible wounds that their work can inflict. These wounds are no different from wounds that I said our military encounters on the battlefield. According to one study, law enforcement officers are 54% more likely to die by suicide than the average American, because they're under such enormous pressure and they see things none of us ever see. The vast majority of law enforcement officers tell us that peer support programs are the most helpful mental health resource there is. And that makes sense, you hold just a second, it makes you, when you think about it, you know, law enforcement as well as the military, all taught to be stand your own. You know, don't ask for anything. You can do it. Just take care of it yourself. And it's an enormous burden we put on people.
Okay. So, is this a joke? I mean, because this is like funny over here for a second. Let's just think about this for a second as we see this, the Cops Counseling Act. Okay. Joe Biden just mentioned, first of all, he drew the parallel from the military, what the military personnel are feeling, what they're going through, and that we have to help them. Well, the safest way to keep them out of harm's way, the best way, is not to intervene with these countries and these governments and put them in these awful positions where we're looked upon as the occupying forces. Of course, they're going to be traumatized when, you know, people are trying to kill them and they see their friends, you know, hit an IED on the road and are, you know, have their legs blown up or you know, never make it back. So, of course, these people are experiencing that. And Joe Biden has been one of the biggest proponents as far as military intervention, whether it be Iraq, whether it be Ukraine and Russia, whether it be all the NATO wars. Joe Biden has been the number one pusher of these wars. For him to sit there and say, well, you know, these are the same experienced police officers are facing as the military who are dealing with terror threats, which is, again, trying to draw that line to January 6th. We got to combat terror. January 6th is domestic terrorists trying to throw an insurrection against our government. Here is the parallel. For him to say that is almost fucking laughable. Joe Biden, who puts so many troops in harm's way. Remember there were no WMDs in Iraq? Well, Joe Biden was the man in the Senate for almost an hour on the floor, fam, pushing for that intervention when millions of people were died or displaced. Soldiers come home every day. 22 of them killed themselves every fucking day. And Joe Biden was the architect of these wars.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising if you've been paying attention to who Joe Biden is. He's literally always been pro-cop. You know, pro-segregationist, pro-everything on the right. He is, like, if you look at his voting record, he votes like a right-winger. He's not this sort of FDR candidate. We all know this. All of you who watch us know this, that he's not, you know, about to be. It's not surprising at all. But it is worth throwing it in the faces of a lot of people who said that they want to vote out fascism by pointing this out. But especially the people who think that, you know, Republicans are the only purveyors of white supremacy, when the reality is it's two wings of the same bird, and Democrats are right there with them. They just gaslight, you know, they decorate their words to make it seem like they're not. So I looked up the legislation, and if you go to the congress.gov, you'll be able to find it. It passed the House, in the Senate, and I'm just going to read a little bit of it now. And this was introduced by a Democrat from Nevada. So that's interesting. Just overall, it passed the House on October 27th of this year. It sets forth requirements related to peer support counseling programs. A peer support counseling programs is defined by them as a program provided by a law enforcement agency that provides counseling services from a peer support specialist to a law enforcement officer of the agency. Among other things, the bill does the following: generally prohibits the disclosure of the contents of peer support communication and requires the Department of Justice to develop best practices and professional standards for peer support counseling programs. So right off the bat, anything they discuss in this peer counseling group is not going to be disclosed. So that over there gives them an extra layer of protection. They already have protection from the unions. So anything, let's say, that they discuss within that doesn't have to be disclosed. So we don't even have healthcare for people. They refuse to give people healthcare. They refuse to give anybody anything during this pandemic. And people have psychologically been damaged from the isolation, from, you know, health-wise as well, from the stress of what the pandemic has induced economically and obviously mentally. And people don't have the luxury of getting healthcare. But remember, the squad voted president, and they have the luxury of getting healthcare and psychological counseling. So do cops now. especially right now in this time where you have the whole situation with Kyle Rittenhouse, and you have this case with Ahmaud Arbery, and you have all this going on, and then Joe Biden comes out and signs this into law. It is a slap in the face in a lot of people, just showing you that this is like the people versus the state. Like at this point, like we don't count, you don't count. It's the people, those who protect the state, because the police technically would be working class, but they're protecting the interest of those in power, which is why it doesn't make any sense. If you're going to attack the national security state, if you're going to attack the state agencies, the CIA and all of that, why do you support cops blindly when they're going to protect those assets of the rich and powerful? They're not protecting yours.
And I always think that, fam, this is argued from the wrong fucking side once again. Excuse my French for cursing. But once again, why are we like, okay, the best way, if you do want to protect cops' mental health, well, you know, what leads to a lot of crime? Homelessness, poverty, whatnot. How many times do police officers have to deal with people with mental health issues, right? Because they don't have the mental health facilities to go to. They don't have the health care to help them with their mental health. So if you really wanted to protect police interests out there, you would strengthen Medicare for all, make sure that everybody who has a mental problem can seek and get mental health, and you would help the working class get more money. So there's less homeless people on the street and there's less crime. It's like that whole thing was like, oh my God, they're getting blown up in Iraq and Afghanistan with these IEDs. What are we going to do to stop it? How about we stop sending them there, and therefore they won't get blown up? Attack it from the source, not the Band-Aid solution. And that's something that these politicians always do. They present the Band-Aid solutions. What are we going to do at the border, fam, when they come here? Well, how about we stop invading their countries and changing their governments so we don't turn the country into a hellhole so people have to come here in the first place? We never think like that. The best thing to help the pro-police people out there that want to help the police, take care of the mentally ill out there. There's too many people with mental illnesses, out homelessness on the streets and are running around, and help the working class. Make sure there's less poverty so there'll be less crime, so less cops will get killed. If that's what you want, there you go. Fix it from the source. Stop with the Band-Aid solutions. Here you go, fam.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's possible at this point. I mean, I think it's systemic. I mean, I think this whole thing it's just not going to happen because it's systemic, and the police are there to protect a certain class, and so that's what they're going to do, and that's what they're trained to do. It would be nice to see some of them turn on the people in power, which you kind of are seeing a little bit of it, but it needs to happen in mass. Same with the military, in order for us to be, have some sort of revolt, so to speak. And I just wanted to show the literature, right, what it looks like. You guys can see it on the screen. It's basically it's the same thing that I just read. And they just lay it out, what it means and what it doesn't mean. They're defining the terms for you. So there it is. It's the act, and it's just really specifically talking about, peer support and psychological support and what it means and what it doesn't mean, and a code of ethics and etc. So I really wanted to get to who voted for this, right? So if we're looking at the voting aspect, it had a roll call 337, the final votes for 215 yeses from Democrats, only 3 noes from Democrats, 209 yeses from Republicans, no noes, and 3 I think that were either independent or were noes, 3 noes in total actually. Yeah, no, 3 no votes total. And all the no votes were Democratic, and there was 3 Republican no votes and 1 Democratic vote. So you had more no votes from the right than you had from the left, which is kind of crazy. No, the nays were Democrats. Yeah. So there was. Yeah. Okay. So there was 3 Democratic no votes, as I said in the beginning, and 1 that didn't vote. Apparently. Okay. So among those people that didn't vote were or that voted nay, like I said, were Cori Bush, AOC, Rashida Tlaib. But among those that voted yes on it, of the progressives, were Ro Khanna. There was also Pramila Jayapal, Ilhan Omar, Marie Newman. Who else? Mark Pocan. Let's see. I'm just going down the list here. There's a few others. Oh, of course, Wasserman Schultz. Of course, that's not surprising. She's not a progressive, but yeah, I said Jayapal as well. Yeah, so Presley right here, Ayanna Presley, other squad member. So notice like when the squad does vote against any legislation like this, it's overwhelming, right? It's going to pass. So notice once again, they voted no, but it's going to pass. Yeah, Jamal Bauman. So, I mean, I just wanted to show you guys the nays.
That's the
And what?
The not voting, who didn't show up at all, was Ted Lieu. That's an interesting one because Ted Lieu lives in somewhat of a nice area in California, whatnot. So he'll have some people in his district that will be like, you better vote nay. And there's a lot of people in his district like, you better vote yay to protect my property. So he's in that area where he just abstained completely. So I wonder what Ted Lieu has to say about this whole situation if somebody were to press him or ask him a question. That was an interesting no vote for me. Not voting. Didn't vote at all. Abstain courteously.
Okay, so my whole point is in showing this whole thing is that this administration is, giving cops psychological counseling, Johnny the tweet, and they're using the January 6th PSYOP as an excuse. And this all happened before they gave you healthcare, before they gave any of you healthcare, before any of us healthcare, before they, did anything to help people during this COVID-19 outbreak. And the reality is Biden is to the right of Trump at this point. He's supporting more people. He is passing pro-cop legislation all around. He literally agreed with the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, which, I mean, you should separate that from what actually happened. But he is going out there to get a certain type of voter, and so he's pretty much outrighting all the reasons why people voted for Trump. People voted for Trump for immigrants. They said, oh, we have to vote out fascism. We have to vote out white supremacy. Joe Biden has pretty much done everything. And then in terms of foreign policy, he has been absolutely disastrous with what he's trying to do to Nicaragua, with what they're alleging are fraudulent elections when we were on the ground just covering that they're not. They were fair and free elections. So all the sanctioning, all of the things, all the bombing in the Middle East, what happened, all of that is pretty right-wing. So if you're going to talk about things in terms of left-wing and right-wing, you can no longer blame Trump for any of this. This is the Democratic Joe Biden administration acting fascistically. And not to mention, of course, I haven't even mentioned the COVID narrative and the fascistic authoritarian vaccine mandates that they are pushing on people that, countries like in Nicaragua, where they didn't have any lockdowns, have such a low COVID rate. And so you have all these things coming to fruition, of course, the economic fall, and he has not at all followed through on any of his campaign promises, like the expansion of Medicare, like some student debt relief, two-year community college tuition, all of that, and the Build Back Better, which is the Build Back fail act with a bunch of money going to the top 1%. So, I mean, this is as bad as it gets with the Joe Biden administration.
I mean, whether you agree with the legislation or not, he surely didn't campaign on this legislation right over here. This is a complete 180. And me personally, I hate the term essential. We heard on that crosstalk show the other day is like, it was very interesting when they told people to go home, lock themselves in and have food delivered to them rather than telling people to go out and deliver food. You know what I'm saying? They didn't do anything to help people within the economy. They told them to stay at home, shut things down. And when it opens it back up, all these small businesses are closed. Nothing's done for them. Certain people were essential. Certain people were not. I mean, I believe plumbers are just as essential as police officers. I'm sorry. It's just necessary. I'm not saying that police aren't important, but there are other jobs. You need water. You need sanitation. This is important stuff, right? I believe that. I believe that everybody's job is essential out there. So I don't like the fact that they're just sitting here and saying one thing and elevating this one business, this one occupation over others. I don't like it at all. And who were they were saying supermarket workers were the essential workers. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, everybody's essential. So it really, to me, is just a bunch of malarkey, this whole legislation, and it is pandering. When are we going to get health care? When are we going to get our due? When are we going to get a working economy? When are we going to stop our foreign policy? Why don't you start with the things that are going to help everybody? But you don't. And that's why you were always a fugazi. You haven't canceled student debt. People are still strapped down with that college debt. What's going on? When do we, the people, get what's coming to us? That's all I want to know. I also have a TikTok fam up of Joe's mental state. I don't know if you've seen this one, but this is good. This is all Joe Biden in the last couple months.
President's a Democrat, the media suddenly lose interest in presidential gaffes. All of the clips you're about to see are from the last 2 months. None of them were discussed or covered on ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, or MSNBC after they happened. First, we've got Biden confusing World War II heroes, the Tuskegee Airmen, with victims of a decades-long human syphilis experiment.
There's a reason why it's been harder to get African Americans initially to get vaccinated, because they used to being experimented on. The Tuskegee Airmen and others.
At the G7 summit, Biden tried to talk about U.S.-Russia cooperation in Syria, but it came out sounding like this.
We can work together with Russia. For example, in Libya, we can save the lives of people for example, in Libya.
Next up is whatever this is.
The question is whether or not we should be in a position where you why can't the experts say we know that this virus is in fact it's going to be, or excuse me, we know why all the drugs approved are not temporarily approved but permanently approved.
Yeah. Then there's this awful moment from a commencement address.
I love those barrettes in her hair, man. I tell you what. And look at her. She looks like she's 19 years old, sitting there with her, like a little lady in a race car.
That poor sign language interpreter. And here he is just flat out making stuff up.
Anyway.
And if we don't
drive an 18-wheeler, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish
That's
I
awesome.
got to.
Do any of these snippets have massive political implications? No, obviously not. And that's not the point. The point is the same media who spent days talking about this tweet now completely ignore stuff like this.
Are there people in the Republican Party who think we're sucking the blood out of kids?
I'm not sure.
The story here isn't the bumbling old guy. It's about the president's a Democrat, the media suddenly lose interest in presidential gaffes. All of the clips you're about to see are from the last 2 months.
Bam. We have a sharp president. Your thoughts?
I mean,
He's razor sharp.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I don't know if it's edited or not. I haven't taken a look at the footage myself because sometimes a lot of the videos are edited to make him look worse. I don't know. I'm not, I'm not going to opine on that because I don't know if the video is edited or not. But I've seen many Biden gaffes already, so I don't put it past him. I just, I kind of want to, I don't know. His policy is already bad enough. I don't know if I need to make fun of him more on all the other shit.
The double standard we've seen between the media would go crazy when he used Kvetki or whatever it was, that stupid terminology as opposed to this and whatnot. The truth is we shouldn't have either one of these donkeys as our president. We should have an actual real representation from the people, and we don't. And these are the choices that we're forced to deal with. That's either this here or that there, throw up or crap. And I'm sick and tired of it and stuff like that. That's why I'm so keen on wanting to point out elections, try to fix elections, because even if we do get to a point where elections matter, this is just ridiculous, the choices that they're giving us. I can't believe that the American people are still really taking this in stride and saying, okay, yeah, I guess people did want Biden. No, nobody wanted these idiots. Nobody wanted either one of these idiots. So anyways, should I read some super chats, super rays? All right, Trey Wright was the first in the door. Hello, mates. Love you all. Keep speaking truth, fam. That's from Trey Wright. Thank you, Trey Wright. AREM. Thank you, AREM. Always so good. So to the good. Good wherever you are and making things better. Thank you, AREM. We appreciate it. And Andrew D'Amico, thank you so much. If you haven't already, please check out the book, The Real Anthony Fauci by RFK Jr. It is well-researched and packed full of incredible information. Yes, if you paid attention to RFK, what he's been saying this whole time, he's been on point with a lot of things, and I'm sure that book is just going to be loaded with Fauci landmines, fam, because the guy has been a polarizing character when it comes to healthcare and when it comes to science for a long, long time. There were a lot of questions of what he did with the AIDS in Africa situation. So, I mean, wow. Yes, we will definitely check that out, Andrew D'Amico. Thank you to all the people who are over on YouTube. If you haven't got the chance to sign up on Rokfin for free, please do so. Or just watch us. We will have a small section on Rokfin only later on. So let's get to the second topic of the day, fam. You want to talk about Ghislaine?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to really talk about how this trial is coming up and how it's been ignored by the mainstream media. Nobody's been talking about it. It's been entirely blacked out. And a lot of people were focused on the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, which, like I said, it's overall not going to change anything in the grand scheme of things. And so, the argument is protesters are going to be now more vulnerable to these people, and it's like protesters have already been more vulnerable made by the laws of the state. So yes, they're obviously going to be more vulnerable if they're anti-establishment, and so that's nothing new. That's been happening since the Patriot Act. And so there was a lot of like distraction coming from the Kyle Rittenhouse case, whereas the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, this is like a gigantic sex trafficking ring that inculpates and involves so many powerful people at the very top, people from, the UK, powerful people in the royal family, powerful politicians, celebrities, all kinds of people. And that's been largely ignored or kind of thrown to be this conspiratorial right-wing sort of focus, because a lot of the right and QAnon did kind of bring that whole subject matter in. That doesn't mean that there was nothing to see there. So I wanted to read this tweet that said, major media companies will fail to report this trial as they are all tied to Epstein associates. Let's see all of you get as involved with this trial like you did the Rittenhouse trial. So the jury selection begins Tuesday for the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. She is charged with procuring underage girls for Jeffrey Epstein, the ultra-wealthy pedophile who died in prison while awaiting trial in 2019. Supposedly he killed himself. Maxwell was allegedly Epstein's primary accomplice. After Epstein's arrest, she was hiding until the FBI tracked down her phone and arrested her last year in 2020. Some people expect the trial to shed light on the inner workings of Epstein's trafficking ring and those involved. It will begin on November 29th. And I don't expect it to shed too much because these people are going to protect themselves. They already have. I have a hard time thinking that that's going to happen, that we're going to see anybody go down for this whole thing.
This is the top of the food chain, fam. This is Ghislaine Maxwell, tied to Jeffrey Epstein, tied to a lot of oligarchs. You know what I'm saying? A lot of nation states, a lot of individuals. There's so much stuff that goes on, and yet there's no attention to it. But some dumb, stupid 17-year-old kid goes with an AR, rifle to Wisconsin, and everybody is just hyper focused on it. Not to minimize death by any means whatsoever. But if you're trying to compare what Ghislaine Maxwell represents versus what Kyle Rittenhouse represents, you know what I'm saying? And the fact that you're going to spend so much attention to Kyle Rittenhouse and judge and police people for their opinions about it, and yet you're not even concerned with Ghislaine, you really need to twist your head on, right? Because it's way out of whack. This is the top of the food chain, ladies and gentlemen. These are people who run this world over here, and Ghislaine is tied to all of it, and none of you care.
Yeah, it comes down to how people understand power, right? Like, once again, the left gets easily manipulated in their understanding of power because they think that they're putting all their attention on Kyle because he represents white supremacy to them. When the guy just went on, I think, Fox, saying that he believes Black Lives Matter and all this other crap. He could be full of shit. It doesn't matter. The whole point is people got manipulated into this whole dynamic, and the power lies with the wealthy, the 1%, people who move and change things in government, in politics. And somebody as powerful and rich as Jeffrey Epstein was able to really have this whole ring go on, involve so many powerful people, and yet, there's so much media silence. Why? Because, as that person tweeted, a lot of these media companies have their own people tied to Jeffrey Epstein. I wanted to point out the latest thing that's been trending around this whole case, that years ago, the Pope Juan Pablo II, John Paul II, was met with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, and there's a picture, and the son was the one that exposed this whole thing, and they just had a meeting, and this was just kind of talking about how they were flown to Europe via a private jet for a supposed blessing about 2 decades ago, 20 years ago. He is now dead. John Paul II is now dead. And yeah, so this is hilarious. But I wanted to show the better picture without the stuff. There should be a picture underneath if you can show that one. so people can get a good look at what happened. Now, the popes meet with all kinds of people. You know, they meet a lot of the wealthier celebrities and stuff. They would meet with the Pope if they could, and blah, blah, blah. That's something that's always happened. I've never been a fan of the Catholic Church for obvious multiple reasons. Now, of course, the right is going to town with this, you know, with the whole Catholic Church abuses of young men all over this country, which is extremely true. That's extremely, you know, that's happened. But they're indicating that there's some sort of connection between the Catholic Church and the child sex trafficking, which, I mean, we can't really say that from a picture, but independently, the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, has been absolutely disgusting in terms of the crimes that they have committed against, you know, young boys, particularly boys and girls, but particularly young boys. And there's a lot of money in the Catholic Church. There's a lot of bribery. There's a lot of corruption. So I wouldn't put it past them, but that's where that whole theory is going. Yeah.
Believe it or not, there's some conflicts from people on the right too as well who are Catholic, who really don't want to see this stuff come to light. They have a hard time dealing with it. You know what I'm saying? I've met people who, you know, are just, you know, uber religious in the Catholic Church. Still, they don't want to hear about what's going on, you know, with the situations with the young men who are unfortunately abused and whatnot. There's been movies about this right now that have kind of gone into detail. I believe it was Spotlight with Keaton. Michael Keaton came out a couple years ago, really highlighted what went on in Chicago from the archdiocese all the way down. So we know these situations are, you know, they happen, and seeing these people together, it doesn't look good at all, fam. At all. It looks very, very bad. So.
Oh, not at all. And I also wanted to point out that a couple of things that are going to happen in this trial that's coming up. The federal judge has been questioning potential jurors, up to 200, more than 200 actually, and they're going to go down to the 12. I mean, there's been this pool that was questioned on Tuesday in Manhattan, 2 weeks before the trial is set to begin. Ghislaine Maxwell, of course, the companion and defender of Jeffrey Epstein, is a sexual offender related to Jeffrey Epstein, is facing a 6-count federal indictment alleging she conspired with him and aided his serial sexual abuse of minor girls between 1994 and 2004. She has pled not guilty to all charges. Initially, they had a pool of 600 people, and they put that down, culled it down to 231. They had to fill out a 25-page written questionnaire designed to screen for potential biases and conflicts of interest. And so the U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan is the one overseeing this, the Southern District of New York. So it looks like it's going to be in New York, Pasta. You were asking before. And they wanted to have a process in a confidential setting because of how public, you know, this trial is in the media. And although, like I said, I haven't seen the mainstream media really talk about this very much. But they said this case amplifies the likelihood that jurors will be more apprehensive and constrained to respond openly and honestly in open court within earshot of other jurors, members of the public, and the media. And so basically they're trying to go down to pick 50, and then eventually they're going to go down to the 12 jurors and 6 alternates. And this is like very big here, depending on who they pick, because they could pick people that are, you know, more akin to forgiving or not as aware of the case. They're likely to pick people who are not heavily social media influenced, who are not heavily in the public eye, because they don't want people to be influenced one way or the other. So that's why this is such an important case as to important part of the case as to who is going to be the potential jurors. Jurors are extremely important. Like you said in the Ahmaud Arbery case, like the all white. That's, to me, shouldn't be allowed. Yep. Hello. I mean, and same thing with Kyle Rittenhouse. I mean, if it was all one way, all white jurors, I mean, it's the same thing. Like you have to have some sort of diversity, because depending on people's backgrounds, they have formulated different opinions as to how to approach things. So that does matter. And so another thing I wanted to point out is how much attention, like we just said, has been paid to the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Glory Jones had a good tweet. She said, hey, so could we get the same 24/7 live stream 4K, 180p HD courtroom coverage for the Ghislaine Maxwell trial too. I know our justice system is only going to give her a slap on the wrist, but more attention to this issue is needed, especially during the human trafficking crisis, right? Like this includes human trafficking, and human trafficking is a big deal. It happens all the time, but it's been hijacked to be the sort of right-wing narrative that only the right-wingers are spewing, and that it's this whole, conspiracy theory about a cabal, and that it's not real. When it is real, it's been real forever, independent of any sort of political spinning you want to put it on. And so, like I said, this is very powerful people that would go down. I mean, you have presidents, vice presidents, people in the royal family. You have all sorts of people involved in this. So to me, it's ridiculous that more people aren't paying attention. We've been covering this for a while. You can see our initial videos on everything, and Pasta kind of like pushed away from it because none of these people are going to be punished. And I still believe that to be true. None of these people are going to be punished, even with this trial. I guarantee you, with the justice system we have, it's going to be a kangaroo trial. None of these people are really going to see any sort of punishment. So,
and ditto, that's exactly why I pushed away from it, fam, because I knew you can see the writing on the wall. I mean, look at the way, and a lot has to do with the people, us. The way we kind of interact with things, the things that we get focused on, the things we don't pay attention to. We've already been like blasted for paying too much attention to Julian Assange. And I think you tweeted underneath Gloria's tweet, and Julian Assange too. When can we get to 1080p with the 4K rolling 24/7? You can press a button and go to different angles, whatnot. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the Rittenhouse case was on display, and that is by design, because the ruling class, fam, they got us figured out. They got us figured out. Most of us, I'm not saying all of us, but they got a lot of people, the masses, figured out. They know how to swing them over here. They know how to emotionally get them over there. Like Johnny says, it's the emotional left and the conspiracy theorist right, whatever, whatnot, who bring in, and that's the thing, like we talk about, when Joe Biden was talking about the sucking the blood, it's what they do is they talk about adrenochrome, and they use that. Look at these Republicans talking about adrenochrome, and they use that to lessen the Epstein shit. They lump it in together and say, oh, look at these guys. They believe in all this stupid shit. So therefore, you don't pay attention to what's going on. The fact that we are not hyper-focused, people outside the courtroom with Ghislaine Maxwell, like going crazy, but they're doing that with Rittenhouse, it worries me. The people, you worry me, the fact that you're not showing the same attention. This is the guys, this is the top of the top. These are the people who run this world, who think that we are nothing, who we're a pest to them. The transhumanism, there's so many things that go into Jeffrey Epstein. And that's not me saying transhumanism. That was the New York Times talking about the Mexico ranch, what he was practicing over there. You notice how they never talk about New Mexico, but they talked about Pedophile Island all the time? I mean, we have to wake up, people. We have to wake up. And that's all I got to say about that. This is why I moved away from this case, because it hurt me so much. Because you lose sleep looking into the victims and what happened, with Jeffrey Epstein in his group. You don't even know about the people who just disappeared, who don't even have a story. You know what I'm saying? But the little girls that he groomed, that Ghislaine Maxwell groomed, it hurts you inside. And then when you know for a fact they're not going to be punished accordingly, I don't even believe that Epstein's fucking dead. But when you know they're not going to be punished accordingly, it just makes you say, I can't look at this no more because it's going to upset me that much, fam. That's it? All right. We do have another super chat. Trey Wright, thank you so much. He jumped right back on in. Can his handlers put his bitch ass in a nursing home already? He's talking about Joe. I still like the one when Joe was at the G7 and he's got the sneakers on, like the senior citizen sneakers, and he wanders into the cafe and he's like, "What's going on up here?" And his wife goes, "Come on, Joe, you gotta get out of here." It's laughable at this point. Kristen Nye, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. I couldn't find the tip tab on the app. I had to go through the website. Kristen Nye, thank you so much for going through all that hassle to help us out. You can always give us love at the PayPal. On the Convo Couch, we got that going on. You can go to theconvocouch.com, find all the avenues. Thank you so much for helping us out. It means a lot to us. Kofefe is what Aspen Fallen says. Remember when he put that? Everybody lost their shit. MSNBC did a whole day on this thing. CNN, they all went nuts with this. But Joe says all these things, and he's okay. In fact, I think it was Brian Stelter of CNN said, oh, Joe Biden, they're making fun of him. Look at him. He's on a bike ride. He's okay. He's riding a bike. Ronnie Graham, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. General point, asshole CIA-fueled bots that fake the social justice is a meme and not the most important cause. Should be seen for what they are, lies. Do not be affected by this. This effort to dish you should be ignored. It should slow nobody down. Social justice is the most important cause. Pam, do you have anything to say on that?
Economic justice breeds social justice. So I think economic justice is more important to get social justice. I don't think you're going to get social justice without economic justice. So I disagree with that.
I think the way we define social justice in the States is different than when they define social justice in the global South. Social justice to them is the right to an education, is a right to health care, is a right to good infrastructure. That's what social justice is to them. They talk about that. Social justice to us is the way other people think. You need to think this way. You can't act this way. You have to use the proper pronouns. That's not social justice. You're 1,000% right. It's linked to economic and resources. Money isn't just about cashola. It's about resources and who gets them. That's the most important thing. That, in fact, is true social justice. That's just my opinion. Amber King from Roar Media. What's up, Amber in the house? Schumer actually just got a promotion. Moved her up and will get to appoint a new judge. Wink, wink. I'm sure it comes as a shock to Israeli intelligence.
About Ghislaine.
Is that the same judge or
all right, so I wanted to bring this up because I think it's important to acknowledge the changing narratives. We've kind of talked about it before, but the Biden administration has redefined so many things. We've redefined what it is to be vaccinated. We've redefined what it is to have a vaccine, what it is to to be, like, the terms of how long that means you're fully vaccinated, and all of this has been changed by the CDC, by Fauci constantly, which is why so many people are completely just done with this narrative. Even people that initially took it for what it was and did what they were told because they said, okay, this is going to send us back to normal. But each and every day they keep changing something. They keep moving the goalposts. So the Biden administration has admitted. Yeah. Okay. So this is just straight from the article. The Biden administration, and along with Fauci, have decided that they're shifting what it means to be fully vaccinated now in terms of the booster. And this is directly from the administration. So this is from RT. They wrote an article. This is, of course, Dr. Fauci, Anthony Fauci, said that the guidelines for what makes somebody fully vaccinated against COVID-19 could soon be changing depending on the science. And he was on CNN this past Sunday and was asked if booster shots would be soon required for someone to be considered fully inoculated, something required for many to work and entertain certain businesses in America now, in most states, effectively to do anything. While not giving a direct yes or no answer, the infectious disease expert said the current administration is open to it. He said, we're going to be following that very carefully. He said, adding that the Joe Biden administration might modify the guidelines for what constitutes being fully vaccinated based on the lasting effects of boosters. He said, we don't know right now. We have to be perfectly transparent and honest. Americans should not be put off by the fact that as time goes by and we learn more and more about the protection, the definition of fully vaccinated might change, Fauci stressed. So he was on State of the Union and encouraged adults 18 and up to get the COVID booster shots. He said, just go out and get boosted. We know they're safe and we know they're highly effective and bringing very, very high up the optimization of your protection. Now is the time to do it. So let's listen to what he says. And again, the CDC says that these vaccines are safe and effective. despite that, many other countries are pulling back on the vaccinating younger people. And right now, those people who are given 2 doses of the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine or 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson are considered fully vaccinated. But according to Fauci, Pfizer and Moderna recipients should already be getting boosters after 6 months, and Johnson & Johnson recipients after 2 months. Bottom line, get boosted. And he talked about needing to provide durability for more boosters. Give me a second. And so let's watch the first video, and then there's another video right after.
Let's talk about the booster shots because they are now authorized for all adults. The CDC says those over 65 or with underlying conditions should get boosters, but for everyone else, it only says they may get a booster. So, can you clear this up for us? Do you recommend that every single American 18 and older get a booster shot?
Absolutely, Dana. Let's make it clear. You know, when there's lack of clarity, people get confused. They're not sure what to do. If you are 18 or older and you've been vaccinated, fully vaccinated with the Moderna or the Pfizer mRNA 6 months or more ago, get a booster. If it's J&J and it's 2 months ago or more, get a booster. I don't think we should get hung up on should, may. Just go out and get boosted. We know they're safe and we know they're highly effective in bringing very, very high up the optimization of your protection. So just go ahead and get boosted. Now's the time to do it. As we're getting into the holiday season, you want to be fully protected in the sense of getting optimal. I mean, the vaccines themselves clearly are still highly effective, but you want to make sure the durability of that protection is longer. And that's the reason why you get boosted, because we know no vaccine lasts forever. So the protection starts to wane a bit. And that's what the boost is all about. Bottom line, Dana, get boosted.
Thank you for clarifying that. It's so important.
All right, so guys, we're gonna I think we should play this one video. That's the second one, and then we're gonna go to Rokfin only to give you guys our breakdown of this, because yeah, you know. All right, so let's play this next video when he's asked whether they will need the boosters annually or not.
Let's talk about later on. Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla recently said there's a high chance boosters would be needed annually. Do you think that's a possibility, or do you believe it might be even sooner, like every 6 months?
You know, we follow the data, and it's so easy to predict, Martha, about how often you would need it. We would hope, and this is something that we're looking at very carefully, that third shot with the mRNA not only boosts you way up, but increases the durability so that you will not necessarily need it every 6 months or a year. We're hoping it pushes it out more. If it doesn't, and the data show we do need it more often, then we'll do it. But you want to make sure you get the population optimally protected, and you do whatever you need to do to make sure you do that. My hope as an immunologist, as an infectious disease person, that maturation of the response, increasing its strength and power, will be followed by a greater durability. That's what I'm hoping for. If it doesn't happen, we'll act accordingly.
Yeah, and you're hoping. You're hoping. I'm wishing on a star. You also hope for shit in astrology. Let's going to go over to Rokfin only right now before we get ourselves in trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time. If you haven't joined Rokfin, please do so. You don't even need to sign up to watch it. Just go to Rokfin, watch the Convo Couch. But if you can sign up for free and endorse us, please do so. And if you want to get a subscription for $9.99 a month, you can do so. You'll get everybody's content across the board for free. So we're leaving YouTube and saying goodbye. Auf Wiedersehen, fam. Peace out to YouTube. We'll see you on Rokfin.
On the thing.
Farewell.
If you guys can share the link to the Rokfin on the YouTube, that would be great, so people can just click on it. Yeah, vaccines are safe and effective according to the CDC, which is why you have to keep getting them. And durability now durability, that is a word I hadn't heard before. So guys, we will be discussing what this means. Basically, Fauci is telling everybody no. The Biden administration, of course, along with Fauci, is telling everybody that you should get boosted. Go get your booster. It is safe and effective, and that is the CDC, that is the FDA. But we will have to wait 55 years to get the data from Pfizer. So in 2076, when we're all either dead or some of us very old, then we will be able to know fully all the things we need to know. So bye YouTube, bye Facebook, bye everybody. We'll see you guys on the Rokfin.